The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth, no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Detroit sports truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct. Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics, and welcome to the 2016 New Year edition on episode 185 of the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker. I'm Taylor Phillips, and I'm with my top co-host on the podcast, Ed Smith. Happy New Year. Thanks so much for being on here. How are you?
Happy New Year. I'm doing fine, Taylor. Happy New Year to yourself. Hope everybody
Thanks a lot.
rung into New Year as safe and happy as can be. I'm sure there was a lot of hangovers that we're experiencing this past weekend. Some of the good kind, some of the not so good kind. And I'm just talking on the football field. So, I'm ready to, bring in the new year and bring in the whole new year of this show with a bang. How about you?
Absolutely, yeah. So why don't we get started here with the Detroit Lions.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
They finished their season at 7-9 after winning 24-20 in Chicago at Soldier Field over the Bears. The Lions led 10-0 after a 59-yard field goal by Matt Prater, a new Lions franchise record. The second half was pretty much back and forth. The Bears came back to tie it at 10, and before it started becoming a seesaw, the Lions in the end got a touchdown from Eric Ebron, and then the Bears only had to settle for a field goal from Robbie Gould, an easy one. Lions defense did their job, and then they did their job again with an interception by Glover Quinn, and they just ran out the clock. So they finished their season at 7-9, which means they will take the 16th pick overall in the 2016 NFL Draft, this year's NFL Draft now, which means they will not be in pursuit of a top draft pick at all this year unless they can trade up. That just came back. That just came back to me. Right now they stand at number 16. Here's how the list goes for the mock draft as of right now. Number 1, the Tennessee Titans. Number 2, the Cleveland Browns. Number 3, the San Diego Chargers. Number 4, the Dallas Cowboys. Number 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 7, the San Francisco 49ers. Number 8, the Miami Dolphins. Number 9, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 10, the New York Giants. Number 11, the Chicago Bears. Number 12, the New Orleans Saints. Number 13, the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 14, the Oakland Raiders. Number 15, the St. Louis Rams. Number 16, the Detroit Lions. Number 17, the Atlanta Falcons. Number 18, the Indianapolis Colts. And number 19, the Buffalo Bills. The last three, 17 through 19, all finished at 8-8. And you mentioned to me in a private message conversation on Facebook that Robert Condici was projected to finish somewhere in the top 15, to be exact, not around there, but exact. And the Lions are still stuck at 16 unless they can trade up.
Yeah, the Lions are they're literally in limbo. They're not close to the top, they're not close to the bottom. They're literally stuck in the middle, as that famous song once featured in Reservoir Dogs used to say. As for Robert Condici, back in as the nation was still in the afterglow, so to speak, of his aftermath of his game against Alabama in September and October, I think it's safe to say he was being projected as a top 5, no no lower than top 10 pick. Now, as has been recently discovered with his, I believe his arrest for marijuana possession, it can raise some question marks, red flags, possibly on his character, personality, such and such. So it could actually lead to a bad bet where his stock might actually falter a few spots. Now, I don't think it'll be enough to where. Now, I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, but I think he still stays in the first round. And I think with his talent and potential, he absolutely deserves to be a top 15 pick. And I think it'll be just very poetic and just so perfectly fits the Lions' luck if Robert Goodyear gets picked by a team right at number 15 or even close to it, just before the Lions can even snip at a chance to maybe select him. Because someone tells me, they may not admit it, they may not state it, but I think, defensive line should be on their list of needs in terms of how to replenish this upcoming draft. And if you got a guy like Robert Goodyear here, because let's face it, he's probably the second guy on the defensive line that you want in this draft after Joey Bosa, and Bosa's going to be gone by pick 2 or 3, guaranteed. Okay, so I guess you can say the next best guy, unless there's just a few other players, but Rock of is at least one of those 2 or 3 or 4 guys even that's best after Joey Bosa in terms of stud prospects on defensive line. So if he's somehow available by the time the Lions get a chance to pick him, why wouldn't you select him? Because like we mentioned before, you need to rebuild your defensive line. Okay, you lost Ndamukong Suh and you lost Nick Fairley. You tried to replenish it. You tried to quote unquote replace it with Haloti Ngata. Didn't necessarily work out this year. You don't even know. So. Now, granted, you did have some revelations, some silver linings, so to speak. Ziggy Ansah and Devin Taylor had terrific, awesome years in terms of getting to the quarterback and producing sacks. So we're fine with that regard. Now, you need a plug, a true force, a wall right up that middle to not only stuff up the run, but command so much attention from the interior of the line that it frees up and opens up opportunities, one-on-one blocking opportunities for your ends, Taylor and Ansah, to wreak havoc on the quarterback on obvious passing situations. So this is imperative. It's very imperative for the Lions to fix their defensive line. I think they have a real good chance of doing that due to draft. I'm sure, even if Kimdichie is there, I'd still say, unless there's a real good player there, the Lions should go defensive line for their first overall, for their first round selection of this year's draft.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's the case. But again, the Lions still want Kimdichie. If they do, they should trade for him. It's that simple.
Possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. If they have a feeling a team that might be looking to take Kimdichie, if they have the shot, who knows, maybe the Lions, if they have enough in terms of wanting to offer picks for this year's draft and next year's draft, maybe some salary consideration, and of course a player or two, if they feel they have what it takes and they have enough even to get a deal like that done, go for it, take a shot, see what happens. If Kimdichie is the guy that you want, because like I said, we're not the guys, me, Taylor, we're not the ones in the war room, we're not in the meeting, so to speak, we're not on the personnel, thank God, because I would have actually quit or resigned by now, or asked to be fired, dealing with the incompetency of this entire organization. But that's another story for another day, another topic, another point of discussion. As it stands, though, like I mentioned, we're not the ones in that war room, so we can't go over or get an inkling as to who in the hell they might pick. So it's merely a guess, a second-handed guess at this point. Might as well try to throw on a guard, put on a crystal ball all we want, but at this point it's just a guess. It's not a prediction, not a hypothesis, just a shot in the dark guess.
Yep. It's going to come out of nowhere if it happens. Another thing I'd like to touch on, there's no word on head coach Jim Caldwell's future yet. We've been hearing news that Lions ownership, including Martha Firestone Ford and her family, want to retain him but they are expected to leave that decision up to the new general manager when he's hired. And I got a new article from DetroitLions.com and Tim Twentyman, a senior writer, that the players are making a final push for Caldwell. That's what the headline says on DetroitLions.com. With a short pitch note, it's very clear head coach Jim Caldwell has the full support of the locker room. Posted 7 hours ago. Tim Twentyman's Twitter is T20man. It said here, players in the locker room reiterated that Monday as they cleaned out their lockers and started to head home for the offseason. Veteran cornerback Rasheed Mathis, for example, said Caldwell is quote unquote the best coach he's ever played for. And Lance Moore stepped up for him and took it, and quote unquote took a step further when he asked about Caldwell. He said it would be an organizational mistake if the permanent GM decided to move on from him. I mean, it's each and every single player supporting Jim Caldwell after a losing season.
You're crazy! You're crazy! You're crazy! Are you crazy?
It comes down to the fact that, Jim Caldwell, despite what we may say and think of his ability as the head coach, I think it should be noted that it's probably legit that he is probably a nice guy, a decent human, treats everybody in that team and organization right, with proper respect, conduct, etiquette, all that good stuff. So I can definitely see why a lot of people, ownership, and the right kinds of people, ownership, the players, those type of people would want to see him back. But for those, like I said, for fans like you and me and people like Jeff Moss and people that have not only watched this team for year after year, but also specifically have studied Jim Caldwell for year after year, they know he's just not that fit or competent to be a NFL head coach. I'm sorry, okay? You saw what happened to when he was the head of the ship of the Indianapolis Colts once Peyton Manning went down, okay? They were an absolute mess. And Jeff Moss has pointed out numerous times about his track record going back to, I believe, his coaching days at Georgia Tech or Wake Forest. I think it was Wake Forest. That's what it was. And his winning percentage was abysmal there. So when you get to take into the fact that his tenure or his stops at places where he's not had a godsend of a talent to help him win games, i.e. having Peyton Manning here at Indianapolis, he's just been a very mediocre at best head coach, and that's at best. Okay, that's trying to put it nicely. If you can see with the decisions that he's made in his first 2 years here, it'll be reprehensible to bring this man back as your head coach for a third year. For God's sakes, need I go back to the final play against Green Bay at Ford Field? But the Hail Mary, all that. He did not have the right personnel set up to defend the play, the right formation, the right scheme, I should say, and he didn't have Calvin Johnson, his 6'5", 40-inch vertical jumping athletic freak out there to possibly defend, a Hail Mary being thrown by Aaron Rodgers, because he thought, and I quote, we were expecting them to run the lateral. Like, really? Did you not know who was the damn quarterback throwing that last pass? Pass there. Thank you. He almost did it again the other night against the Vikings. All right?
Just last night.
Exactly.
That was
almost could have sent that game in overtime if somebody from Minnesota wasn't there to bat it down, as someone should have to scheme it up for the Lions for someone to have done. So there's many, and not to mention the fact that he, to this day, I think he still has not admitted some fault in his own on not firing Joe Lombardi way sooner than the team should have. Okay, so that's another indicator. It seems like there's a lack of accountability in taking responsibility for certain actions. So that's the guy you want leading your team as the head coach. At this point, you almost would rather have Jim Schwartz back, and that's saying something. That is saying something in and of its own.
Yep. Very completely, directly precise breakdown, Ed, and especially Jeff Moss as well, on Jim Caldwell's entire track record. That explains the other half of the point counterpoint that kind of trumps the players siding with Jim Caldwell. We have broken down the facts of how Caldwell has done as a head coach, despite as opposed to his track record as an offensive coordinator in the NFL, winning 2 Super Bowls and 3 Super Bowl trips. And then Caldwell leading his Lions to an 11-6 record, not 11-5. That's just a regular season. 11-6 totally, the entire season, including the Dallas loss to the Cowboys in the playoffs. The one the Lions let get away when they could have taken the easy yard on 3rd and 1, but instead they throw a deep pass to Brandon Pettigrew, who was well covered, and Pettigrew gets pushed, gets called for a pass interference, and then the flag gets picked up, and then the fans homer on the referees. Detroit versus everybody. Jerry Jones paid the refs to screw the lines and all that BS. I mean, it's not Detroit versus everybody, guys. It's Detroit versus Detroit, like Jeff Moss said. And I'd love for him to say it more than twice and constantly until the Detroit versus everybody crap ends. Now, moving on here, the Lions are searching for a new GM starting yesterday. Today, we've heard that they will interview New England Patriots Director of Pro Scouting Bob Quinn and Seattle Seahawks Co-Director of Player Personnel Trent Kirchner for the general manager vacancy. And keep in mind, the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks were finalists in last season's Super Bowl, and the Patriots won the Super Bowl. That's about all I can give in terms of analysis.
That's the best. Yeah, that's the best we can gather in terms of who these 2 potential candidates represent. There's not so much backstory or background info, who they are, if they were in charge, what insight would they provide, that type of thing. It is what it is. We only have is the on face value. But I'll be honest, I'm not really feeling optimistic that they can land an adequate or decent or above average hire here. I'm fully waiting for the other shoe to drop and for a press release to be announced. We're pleased to announce that we've hired Sheldon White to be our new general manager. Really, you literally did not learn from the past, okay, from Martin Mayhew and Matt Millen, all right? So I'm expecting that day to happen. Even though, like I said, remember, and Moss, and as well as Justice Bill pointed out, Martha Ford and the Ford family was talking about, we're going to go on a national search to find a new team president, when more than likely they already had well in mind who they wanted to hire, and they hired Rod Wood a mere 5 days later. Yeah, that's a real good national search you got going on for you, pal. So I really wouldn't be surprised at this point just to see see a release or a tweet or an announcement, or notification that lets me know. The Lions have hired Sheldon White as the new general manager because it will give me a good incentive to just give up on this team for a good, once again, go Lions free, as Art Regner would say. Go Lions free in 2016 and hope, like I said, until they get new ownership, competent head coach, that sort of thing. Because the talent is there. I've said this numerous times. The talent is there for this team to do something special. I just do not trust this organization. Okay?
Especially in the front office.
Exactly, especially front office. So that in turn is makes me feel torn about this franchise that I've grown up watching since I was a little kid. So
don't forget Bill Keenest.
Exactly. Oh goodness, apologist in chief. So again, yeah, I'm ready to go Lions free in 2016. Only reason, that I, should, Lord willing, if I'm doing this show with you, Taylor, and we're breaking down and recap the Lions, is because, hey, I just did watch highlights and tidbits. You couldn't pay me enough money to sit there for 3.5 hours and torture myself watching this ineptitude of comedy every Sunday in the fall.
Yeah, we will keep going Lions free until the Fords sell this team to a real football owner, but we will still keep our eyes on them in the process, just for the fun of it.
Yeah, and for the sake, because it's part of our job, it's part of what we do on this show, to not only entertain, but also, first and foremost, inform you, the audience, of what's going on with our teams. So it's our obligation that we got to fulfill that part.
Education is the number one priority on our podcast. Also, the Cleveland Browns are expected to interview Lions defensive coordinator Terrell Austin for a head coaching position. Terrell Austin just won't give up trying to find a head coaching position.
Because he knows how much it would be. He would rather take his chances on a dump hole like Cleveland than an environment like here, where he knows that, like I said, there's the level of incompetence with the front office is just staggering. So Terrell Austin might be looking for his one-way ticket out. I wouldn't blame him.
See, here's the thing, though. Terrell, as Jeff Moss pointed out earlier this season, he tweeted out, Terrell Austin is not quite head coaching material yet.
No.
And he was being sarcastic saying that he was head coaching material with exclamation marks all over afterwards. He's not. So, if the Browns were to hire Terrell Austin as head coach, they would still be at rock bottom, because it's just not going to work. He's only fit for the defensive coordinator position with us, and
or any other team. I just don't see him as head coach ready. Now that could change, that could develop, and over time, the next couple of years or so. But as of right now, excuse me, I just don't see it. I just flat out do not see it with Terrell Austin.
Me neither. And finally, their 2016 schedule is already released on DetroitLions.com. We encourage you all to look at it. Whether you're a slappy Lions fan or an educated Lions fan, or just want to look at it just for fun, just look at it. And we have some breaking news and other NFL news. The San Diego Chargers, Oakland Raiders, and St. Louis Rams have all officially filed for relocation to Los Angeles, California. Yeah, that's it. Los Angeles, California. 3 teams in the NFL.
Oh, man!
3 NFL teams in Los Angeles, California.
Now, more than likely, the owners will not approve of this. They'll try to approve at least one of these 3, and more than likely, in the realistic terms, they'll probably approve of 2, so that way they could be both will get to share a stadium, kind of like the New York Giants and the Jets, or the Lakers, the Clippers, that type of deal. I highly doubt it's going to be all three moving into one city and sharing one stadium. Because, not to mention, think about what kind of schedule hell it'll cause. Like, come on, you're like really, like every other week it will be like a rotation, so to speak, of which team's going to be home, which one's going to be on the road, that yada yada, and on the odd chance that one, or all three face each other within a given year, this is too much confusion, too much work. Just keep it at two if you're so bad and desperate and wanting to have a team back in Los Angeles, fine. I probably, I kind of feel bad in a bit way for the San Diegoans because, apparently if you read the statement, the team has been trying for year after year after year to garner better attention to possibly get a new stadium so they can remain in San Diego. So they may feel this is either their ultimate trump card or, they just want to get a new stadium by any means necessary. So either way, this is what they're planning to do here. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. Again, we all are looking forward to the 2-day period for which the owners will meet each other. That'll be next week, the 12th and the 13th, Tuesday and Wednesday, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see how how will they vote on this, and two, who will they vote for to officially move or relocate, I should say, to Los Angeles. So, yep. Each day and day, we're getting closer and closer to the reality of NFL officially being back in Tinseltown.
Los Angeles has had a history of having the Rams in Los Angeles as an NFL team back in the late 1900s. Keep in mind. Now moving over to college football.
Touchdown, MSU!
Obviously, the Michigan State Spartans football team didn't score any touchdowns. In fact, they didn't score any points. And worse yet, they got blown out by the Alabama Crimson Tide 38-0 in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, home of the Dallas Cowboys. The Tide move on to play the Clemson Tigers in the national championship game. Clemson finished off the Oklahoma Sooners 37-17 in Miami in the Orange Bowl. So next Monday at 8:30 on ESPN is the national championship football game between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the undefeated Clemson Tigers. But the Spartans, though, in football, first quarter was no score. Second quarter, Bama struck first, or Bama was the only team to strike with only 10. At the end of the second quarter, the Spartans had a drive going until Connor Cook threw a dumb interception, which killed the momentum.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought, like, at first glance that hey, Cyrus Jones made a hell of a play on the ball, but really, no. When it comes down to it, Connor Cook made a terrible, horrible, horrific decision. Mm-hmm. Number one, staring down your receiver, and number two, just not putting enough oomph on that pass. So, yeah, I had to get my brief thoughts on that one. Continue.
And then going into the second half, Bama led 10-0 and then just rolled on from there, and the final score was 38-0. That's about it. The Spartans were just other than that interception, Ed, Connor Cook wasn't to blame for many other things. For too many other things, it was the rest of the entire team that let them down. They fell flat.
Oh yeah, it was a full blown dismantling. This was a total team loss here. It wasn't the quarterback was horrible, or the defense was bad. Like, no, this was collateral. This was collateral damage, a collateral demolition, destruction. I should say. Bama came in here, not just that they wanted to play, they wanted to make a statement. They wanted to just let them know, hey, That loss to Ole Miss, it pissed us off. It woke up a sleeping giant, and we are a team you do not want to mess with here. And unfortunately, the four Spartans, Michigan State, they were just the catalyst. They were the lamb. They were the guinea pig, so to speak. There wasn't so much of an influx of Derrick Henry, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, even though he did get 2 touchdowns. The second and final one coming off an emphatic stiff arm of Shalik Calhoun. But it really, like I mentioned before, this total team play. The passing game, the wide receivers, the defense. First of all, foremost, the quarterback, Jake Coker. Was it Jake Coker, I believe? Hold on one second. I want to make sure. Yes, I was correct. Jake Coker probably played the best game of his life, probably the best game he will ever play in his life. 25 of 30, 286 yards, 2 touchdowns. Great accuracy. Not very, very rarely a bad ball thrown at all. Getting good protection, great protection from his offensive line. Of course, his wide receivers stepping up for him, especially Calvin Ridley, who I believe is a true freshman. So it seems like that the Tide have found their replacement, so to speak, for Amari Cooper, just like they did for as Cooper replaced Julio Jones back in the day. So they have a keeper for the next few years, and his name is Calvin Ridley. He can be an absolute terror in terms of making plays for that team and for the whole entire SEC. So that's a player you got to watch out for. Cyrus Jones, my goodness, if it wasn't the interception, it was that punt return for a touchdown midway through, or late in the third quarter, I should say, that officially broke the game wide open. It was a bit of a microcosm, so to speak. Him getting a stride, and then when getting close to the sidelines, broke off at a bit of a high step, side step, and then just making great maneuvers and movements on his way to the end zone. Again, total team domination. It was represented in the score. It was represented in the stats. It was represented in everywhere. It also seemed like Nick Saban flat out coached circles around Mark D'Antonio. Now, D'Antonio shouldn't necessarily feel bad, even though this is the second time going up against his former head coach. Because remember, when Saban was the head coach of Michigan State from 95 to 99, D'Antonio was his assistant. I believe it was all either 2 or all 4 of those years. But Mark D'Antonio was an assistant under Nick Saban, as was Will Muscat. Many of our Saban's assistants. I'm trying to say this name correctly. I hope I'm saying it correctly. Will Muscat, who recently coached at Florida. And by the way, like I mentioned before, D'Antonio shouldn't feel too bad going up against Saban because, like I said, it was now updated. Nick Saban is now 9-0 in games against teams of which the head coach of the team was an assistant who worked under him at a previous job or current job, whatever the case may be. And the average margin, so to speak, or at the very least in terms of winning differential, has been at least 14 points. So, they got nothing too much to feel ashamed of. You just another list on another name on the list. That's all. Another victim on the tree. But that's for Michigan State. If it seems that we're coming down too hard, or we're trying to rag or troll, no. Trust me, we're not, and I'm especially not, because as a Michigan fan, I would have killed to see my team getting the recognition and exposure being in the college football playoff, winning a Big Ten conference title. Trust me, who wouldn't want that? You probably would have dealt with the sting of getting blown out. Michigan probably would have felt more than likely would have felt the same fate if they were placed, like say, in Alabama or Clemson or in Oklahoma, whatever the case may be. But still, you at least would have, hang your hat on your head, on the nail at the end of the day and say, hey, we made it, we went there, we had some level of accomplishment. So MSU shouldn't feel too down, even though, yes, it did not end nowhere near the way that they wanted it to be. They still had a terrific season, and they definitely have. They should give them more fuel and motivation to reach higher, as the Twitter mantra was last season, and do it for 2016 and see if they can take that one step even further.
Yeah, just the only negative that I have for the ending of this, just a sad ending for Connor Cook's college football career as he declares for the NFL draft. And the only excuse I can come up with for the Spartans losing like that is they're just not ready for this college football playoff thing yet. They're not ready to take center stage yet in the playoffs. We should just give them at least a little bit more time. They need to keep getting a little better.
Yeah, but them getting this type of experience on such a grandest of grand stages, it can help them in future situations. They can look back on this and say, okay, here's what we need, what we didn't do right, and here's what we need to do better. So they can look back on this and say, no, it was not our finest moment, but it helped us learn from our mistakes and what we needed to do. So the next time we get back at this spot in the same situation, we can do better and, yes, achieve our ultimate goal.
Yep, absolutely. But speaking of your Michigan Wolverines,
Touchdown, Michigan!
They had their way with the Florida Gators and drilled them 41-7 in the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl. Michigan led 14-7 after one quarter, and then they just rolled on from there. They just never looked back.
Yeah, they pretty much led this one wire to wire. The only time where they didn't lead was when Florida was able to get down the field. Now, granted, it was they had a long drive, but it was aided due to a penalty. I believe it was a legal substitution penalty that erased a possible third down stop and converted it into a first down. So it kept the Florida drive going for that part, and then it culminated on, I would say, a very inventive trick play where the quarterback, Treon Harris, looked like he's walking away from the play, then the ball is directly tapped to the running back, who then tosses it hands it off on a reverse to wide receiver, who in this case was Antonio Callaway, and having the defense caught completely off guard and barring a complete brain fart, all Callaway had to do was just toss it over, underhanded even, to Treon Harris for an easy touchdown score. So that was probably Florida's lone bright spot of the whole entire day, because other than that, it was a complete no holds barred beatdown. Michigan was rolling and clicking on all cylinders, whether it be running, passing, catching, and of course defense. Jake Rudock, in his final game as a Wolverine, final game of his collegiate career, was outstanding. 278 yards, 3 touchdowns, no mistakes, no turnovers, no fumbles or interceptions. Completely different player from the one that we saw at the beginning of this season. Makes me wish, I wish I could have him for another season to really see where he could take this team. But as he stands, the grand transfer only happened for one season. So, but what a way for him to go out in his collegiate year and became, I believe, only the second Michigan quarterback in the history of the school to throw for over 3,000 yards in one season. The first one, of course, was Sean Navarro, who accomplished that feat in 2003, and Rudock finished just behind him in terms of total passing yards. J.U. Chesson, you could say he's become a bit of a revelation in these last few weeks in the second half of the season. He had his breakout game with a 4-touchdown performance against Indiana.
That's one thing that stood out to me in that game. Continue.
Yeah. In this one, he had 5 receptions for 118 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown, of course, coming on an absolute beauty of a play where he did a double stutter, aligned with a Rudock pump fake, and he just burned the defender that was covering him. I believe that player's name was Hosgrove. I hope I'm saying his name right. I remember hearing hearing his ability being touted. Hey, this is a All-American type of cornerback. He's one of the best in the nation, and then he got burned. Chesson Chesson and the Wolverine wide receivers had their way with him in this game, so I kind of feel bad for him in that regard, especially on that wide open touchdown that Chesson had. And then on the running attack, Devion Smith, 25 carries, 109 yards. Drake Johnson doing his part, making good runs on making first downs, getting a touchdown on a run and another touchdown on a pass play. Sione Huma, the senior fullback, he got a touchdown, scored his fifth of the season late in that third quarter to officially put the game away, make it 31-7. It was just a complete. It was the perfect capper, you could say, outside of winning the conference title, and going to a big game like, say, the Rose Bowl or the playoff. But other than that, it was as great a way to finish a first season under Jim Harbaugh as you possibly could have imagined, because it leaves you wanting more and leaves you feeling even more optimistic of what's to come. Because you're getting a lot of starters coming back. Yes, you missed out some players. Yes, Rudolph is gone. Yes, some of your offensive and defensive linemen are gone. But you're still getting a lot of returners coming back. Okay, Jake Butt is coming back. Jordan Lewis is coming back, among others. Jabril Peppers is coming back for a sophomore year. And knowing how well, I believe J.U. Chesson is coming back as well. So like I said, most of the major parts in your offense is going to be coming back. So you got no worries about in that regard, except for one primary big spot, and it's the quarterback position. Now, I think it should be addressed and stated here. I think it was a nickname that I found on Twitter. Jim Harbaugh, I guess you could say, he's a bit of a like some would say, like they call Jennifer Love Hewitt the ghost whisperer, or Cesar Millan the dog whisperer. Jim Harbaugh is the quarterback whisperer. He's the QB whisperer. He somehow finds a way, no matter where he is, at a head coach, whether it be at Stanford, whether it be with the 49ers, now here with Michigan, he finds a quarterback, good or especially if they're not so good, and finds a way to coach them up, show off their strengths, hide their weaknesses, and practically turn them into a much better player what they were before he intervened. And that's where, if you shy away from his guidance for far too long, you really much become an afterthought in some cases. Case in point, even though, he's on a quarterback, he is a starting quarterback on a playoff team, I'm not sure that many people were that intrigued or engrossed in the development of Alex Smith as compared to what it was under Harbaugh. And, need I say more on the situation in San Francisco with Colin Kaepernick? Cap has fallen completely off track and off grid, basically, as is the entire 49ers team. Like, once again, I reiterate, Michigan fans should be sending thank you cards to Jed York every day for the rest of his and theirs and ours natural lives for letting Harbaugh go and letting him come back to Michigan so freely and openly. But like I said, the Jake Rudolph that we saw, back to my boy, the Jake Rudolph that we saw at the start of this year, completely and utterly total different player from the Rudolph that we saw at the end of this season, especially in the second half of the season. We moved on from the mistakes. Utilized what was in front of him on the field, used his feet more to get out of place because he has some good athleticism on him where he can scramble, run around, get some tough yards, grind it out, as they say. And making smart decisions with the football. That's going to draw a lot of attention, a lot of eyes, a lot of NFL scouts. And you can make a safe bet that Jake Rudolph raised his draft stock in the last second half of this season to a point where you could conceivably see him be a second or third round draft selection. Now, conversely, and I hate to use the Spartans as a punching bag again, but Connor Cook's draft stock, it was doing very well, but then, as we saw in this last game, makes you think he still has a lot of work to be done. And then, of course, like we went for it in great detail, the question, so to speak, on his character: can he be a leader or can he be a captain? So that's going to draw some attention. There's possible red flags as well from NFL scouts. Whereas with Rudock, you don't necessarily see that type of hesitation in terms of wanting to, see what kind of person he is, what kind of character he is, or what his characteristics or personality is like, I think if you can garner that, a good chunk of that from watching that post-game interview where he practically almost broke down in tears. He was so overwhelmed of emotion at finding out of the accomplishment that he had done for his team and with his teammates. That's going to garner good attention from NFL scouts. So Jake Rudock did a lot of good things to help his draft stock for coming into this year's draft, especially, and he capped it off greatly the final game in the Citrus Bowl. So great win, great way to end the season. 10-win mark for the Wolverines. I believe this was the second greatest win differential from one season to the next in school history. So it makes you think, wow, things are looking bright. And the way they're performing, I would not be surprised to see. I'm putting it out there right now. Within the next 2 years, I predict we will see the Michigan Wolverines in the college football playoff. I'm putting my neck on the line. It probably not much of a stretch now, but some people were expecting, this is going to take time. This will take 2 or 3 years. They just won 10 wins, won 10 games in Jim Harbaugh's first season. Okay, so if that's setting the program floor, then my God, imagine what the ceiling's going to be. So I put it out there right now. Within the next 2 years, the Wolverines, under Jim Harbaugh, with Jim Harbaugh as their head coach, they will be in the college football playoff. Bold prediction.
Yeah, that might be a great prediction, Ed. Moving on to college basketball. The Michigan State Spartans rebounded nicely with a 69-61 win on the road against the Minnesota Golden Gophers last Saturday, but they dropped out of the number 1 spot after their loss to Iowa, because of it, actually. And the Michigan Wolverines men's basketball team crushed the Penn State Nittany Lions 79-56 at Chrysler Center in Ann Arbor. And Ed, you have the update on the Kansas and Oklahoma college basketball game, number 1 and number 2. Take it away.
Yeah, this is a much anticipated, especially now with the loss that Michigan State suffered at the hands of the Iowa Hawkeyes. It opened up the spots for the Kansas Jayhawks to shoot up to the number 1 spot, and right behind them in number 2, the Oklahoma Sooners. So with it being very early in Big 12 conference play, this set up a potential super showdown, you would say, between number 1 and number 2 in the nation. And boy, did it deliver. It aired tonight on ESPN. It got big-time national coverage, attention, and hype. And the hype was justified, and it delivered, and then some. The game, it went to final just as we were starting our show, believe it or not. The final was Kansas 109, Oklahoma 106, in triple overtime. This
man!
Back and forth, wire to wire. Neither team could get an inch off of each other. So, great display from 2 top teams. And hell, I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch. I can't wait for that rematch down the line in conference play. As for the Wolverines, a couple of things I had to notice here. It was great to see them perform offensively. Number 1, period. But number 2, do it without Karis LeVert, because as you may not, some of you may not know, LeVert recently suffered a lower leg injury. That's what is being categorized and classified as at the moment from John Beilein. Coach Beilein has also stated that the nature of the injury is not yet known. It could be day to day. It could be. It could take anywhere between a day or a week or so in terms before we get any substantial update on LeVert's condition, whether or not he'll be able to return for the team. Now that's troublesome. That's something you got to worry about, down the road. But for this one, it didn't necessarily matter. After a rough start offensively, where they fell into a 7-0 hole, was like 0 for 4 on 2-point shots. Michigan quickly recovered and went on a tear. Many players contributed on the floor and off the bench. Aubrey Dawkins, in a big way, contributed on the bench. Mark Donald moved, like I said, help compensate for LeVert. Mark Donald moved from the bench to the starting lineup. He had a good game, a great game, 16 points. Zach Irvin finally came alive. He had 16 as well. Muhammad Ali Abdul Rahman, 5 of 7, 14 points. Only one with a negative game, you would say, was Derek Walton in most of those shots, and that was because most of his shots got blocked. But still, other than that, great offensive production from a team that you coming into this game, with Maryland and Purdue, two big games looming. You would have thought this may have been a trap game, and then when you would have heard of the news regarding Karis Levert, you would have thought, uh-oh. But they rebounded and responded in a tremendous way. And now it sets themselves up in a position where, if you win one of these next 3 games, because now, as a result of the Iowa win against Michigan State, the Hawkeyes are now number 19. So Michigan's next 3 games, they are, as of this moment, against ranked opponents. 2 are going to be on the road. So that alone lets you know this will not be an easy test. It should be of note that the Wolverines' 3 losses this year have been against ranked teams. Granted, they've all been blowouts, but still, it gives some sort of credence that, hey, we played some good teams. But now, you got to move past that. You got to at least have a competitive game with one of these 3 teams. And hey, wouldn't it be nice to get a win? So, if you can make all 3 of these games competitive and try to win at least one, then, it will let you know that, hey, this season will, there's some good promise to this upcoming season, for the rest of the season, rather. You probably won't win the conference title. You probably won't have such a deep run in the tournament, but still, let you know that this is no pushover of a team that just did not have a single good thing going for the last season. So for them to improve on this season, it'll be very big psychologically, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So with all the college basketball analysis cleared up, we shift to pro basketball.
Left sideline 3, and he answers.
The Pistons lost 94-82 in Indiana to the Pacers Saturday night. Just a bad game for them. And at the end of that game, right after the buzzer, Marcus Morris got into a shoving match with Paul George, and they were both fined. And Morris was fined $15,000, Paul George $10,000. Afterwards, neither of them were suspended. But afterwards, earlier tonight, the Pistons came back home and they dominated in the fourth quarter and took care of the Orlando Magic 115-89. One thing that stood out to me in that game that I saw was a couple behind the back somersault passes, not somersault, but phenomenal passes from Brandon Jennings to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, at least one of them. But Jennings has got some talent on the court, and Jennings finished with 17 points, including a 3 at the buzzer and then another 3 in the fourth quarter. He contributed in helping his team finish that rout.
Yeah, Jennings was 17 points in 18 minutes on the bench. You can tell game by game he's working off that rust, which is to be expected, so to speak, when you're coming off of a very serious injury such as an Achilles tear. So, yep. But to see him perform at this level already is very telling and very encouraging and optimistic to what he can provide for you, not just off the bench, but eventually when you would think he might be inserted into the starting lineup. But tonight was a good occasion where you didn't miss, Jennings was perfect where he was coming off the bench, provided a spark, as we were expecting it to be, so we no longer have to be looking very with dread when the likes of Steve Blake is on the floor trying to lead the second unit. We can feel much more comfortable knowing BJ is there. So the starters, all 5 starters for the Pistons were in double digits. KCP actually had the game high with 21 points. Drummond, of course, 17 and 12, another double-double for Dre. Marcus Morris with 13, Ersani Ilyasova with 10, and then Reggie Jackson. A bit of a quiet night for him, but he still had 14 points and 7 assists. Tolliver, another guy who performed very well with Jennings off the bench, had 10 points, nailed a couple of threes. Stanley Johnson hit a three as well. The Pistons, I believe, had 14 triples in this game.
Oh.
So that helped a lot in terms of establishing a good lead. And trust me, these weren't some lucky, contested shots. These were good open shots that was set up either by good passing or good pick and rolls and good screens. So it wasn't, they took their time developing their plays to set up these open shots. So this is a good example of how good this team can be offensively. And I think they led this one practically wire to wire as well. So also good indicator how they are defensively held Orlando under 90 points. So this was one of those games where I mentioned, in addition to the Indiana game beforehand and now this upcoming Celtics game, they needed to win to at least establish some ground within the standings in the Eastern Conference, because now with this win, Detroit is back in the 8th spot. By virtue also of owning the tiebreaker over Orlando at 19 and 16. That's what both teams are. Of course, Detroit has the 8th spot because what? The tiebreaker. They just beat them head to head. Now they got another crucial game coming up. Let's see. It's coming up on... Coming up.
They play Wednesday in
6th.
Boston.
Thank you very much. Wednesday night in Boston against the Celtics, who currently is one game ahead of them at 19 and 15 rather, and in the 7th spot, they're tied with Indiana as well. Well, actually, no, they have the same record as Indiana. Indiana is in the 6th spot. So, you can leapfrog Boston by winning this game right here on Wednesday. So again, gets you one spot higher rather. And gets you out of that danger zone of falling off of the bubble, so to speak, and missing out. So a good win, very good win against an opponent who was, like I said, just in that same spot as Detroit is. A young team trying to scratch a claw way to a respectable record and a possible playoff spot. And it was nice to see SVG, Stan Van Gundy, get some good revenge against the team that fired him a few years back. So, all in all, good night for the Pistons.
Yep. Pistons once again will head to Boston and play the Celtics Wednesday at 7:30. Moving on to the Red Wings. Well, maybe it seems as if Hockey Town, it just isn't the place for the Red Wings to play, because they fell flat at home against the Pittsburgh Penguins 5-2 to wrap up 2015 on New Year's Eve after jumping out to a 2-0 lead in the first period. And then to start 2016, they beat the Sabres in Buffalo on Saturday afternoon 4-3, and then earlier tonight they blanked the New Jersey Devils 1-0 at Prudential Center. That's two straight both 1-goal games in regulation. Can you believe that?
I know. Maybe that's one of the New Year's resolutions that the Red Wings wished amongst themselves. Finish stronger in the third period, for the love of God. So that's a good indicator that they're off to a good start in that regard. So keep it up, keep it going, and as far as you can, as much as you can in that sense. So it's nice to see they're doing being more consistent rather with their starting goaltender situations, looking more and more apparent that Peter Mrazek should be and will be named the starting goaltender for the rest of the season here on out. Another good thing that's going for the Wings, the continuing emergence of their young bucks. Dylan Larkin had the game's lone goal tonight.
It was a beauty, wasn't it? He faked.
Absolute beauty.
He faked it a wrister, and then he deked around Corey Schneider like every shooter is supposed to, and then he just roofed it top shelf on a backhander on a wrister. That's exactly how breakaway goals, shootout goals, and penalty shot goals are supposed to be scored.
Exactly. You can't get too fancy with it, but still show some little bit of creativity, good feints, good deception. Those are the key marks of having a good breakaway goal opportunity, and Dylan Larkin took full advantage of that. So, nice to see them bounce back, so to speak, and kick off the new year on a good foot. 2 back-to-back wins, both in regulation, both one-goal varieties, and both on the road. But now they have a bit of stretch coming up where they have a West Coast road trip. They got three games in the state of California. First and foremost against the Sharks.
And
on
one in
Thursday
Arizona.
night. Yep, and that'll be the conclusion, by the way, on the 14th, the one in Arizona against the Coyotes, before traveling back home 3 days later to take on the Flyers on NBCSN. First of 2 back-to-back games at home on NBCSN. First against the Flyers, then against the Blues. But back to the Red Wings are currently right now, winning these 2 back-to-back games keeps them firmly in 3rd place amongst the Atlantic Division at 47 points. They have the same point total as the Montreal Canadiens, but I guess due to differences such as win column and overtime loss column, Montreal is ahead of Detroit, so they get the 2nd spot. But at least for now, the Red Wings are out of that wild card bubble, and now they're just in a good spot. I'd like to be better. I still can't believe that the Florida friggin' Panthers football team is leading the division and has 50 points, and has more points than the Wings. But that will we'll cross that bridge when we get there in terms of can you do enough to maintain a good playoff spot but also stay out of the wild card bubble. So good start to 2016. You hope it keeps up for the Wings.
Yeah. Thursday they're in San Jose at 10:30. We might do a 1 o'clock a.m. podcast if necessary. Then on Monday, they're the second of back-to-back games in Los Angeles against the Kings at 10:30. Calling for another 1 o'clock a.m. podcast, maybe 1:30 for each. We don't know if the game goes to either overtime or a shootout. Sunday and Monday, the Wings are in Anaheim and then Los Angeles. Mrazek and Howard are both projected to start each game. But mostly it's going to be Peter Mrazek in goal in this road trip. And then it'll be Mrazek again when they return home for a short 2-game homestand against Philadelphia and St. Louis. Then they're in Buffalo again Friday at 7. Mrazek's going to start that game. Unless he feels he's really tired. But I'm pretty sure Mrazek's a tougher guy than that. He'll probably get some rest too.
Yeah.
He can man up, unlike Jimmy Coward Howard. Mrazek's no coward. So with that out of the way, by the way, defenseman Kyle Quincy could return Thursday in San Jose when they begin their four-game West Coast swing. What do you make of that?
Maybe, I don't know. This is not me wishing ill on a player, but even though I think of them as having very below-average skills, hopefully picked up some pointers in his off time. That's hopefully. One minor note of hockey news, so to speak, you believe you had a notification or an update regarding one Jerome McGinley?
Yep, Jerome McGinley, the left winger of the Colorado Avalanche, a veteran, scored his 600th NHL goal.
Yes! I am invincible!
Just earlier tonight against the Los Angeles Kings at Pepsi Center in Denver, Colorado, as seen on NBCSN. Congratulations to him. His Colorado Avalanche win 4-1, I believe. I didn't see the final score, but I believe it's 4-1. I will check it on NHL.com, and so shall all of you. And finally, a little bit of Tigers news.
That one is long gone.
Jeff Moss on Twitter at Jeff Moss DSR had tweeted earlier that the Tigers were interested in corner outfielder Justin Upton from the Atlanta Braves. I think he's still with the Braves right now, or is he not?
I believe he was traded mid-season to the San Diego Padres.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
free agent.
Yeah, the San Diego Padres. Thank you very much. The Tigers need to go after Justin Upton and get him either in a trade or in free agency, any way possible.
Because he seems as that reliable, that option that's currently left, because that you might be able to get for a financiable, reasonable price. Because it seems like Yoenis Cespedes and Alex Gordon is going to command too much of a pretty penny in this market this off season. So I think you do yourself a good favor going after Upton. He's a recognizable player with recognizable name value. I think can be productive, and also gives you a chance. Now, granted, even though he's not a left-hander, he does give you some good pop offensively out of the corner outfielder spot. And wasn't that the one option, the one spot of need that we've discussed on in that they need to fill desperately? Because, like I mentioned, J.D. Martinez can't do it all by himself. That outfield is going to need some help. So, what better way to do that than to get another corner outfielder? And Justin Upton seems the right kind of guy for that type of job.
Yeah, I believe so. So with everything covered, I'm going to try to come up with some 5 questions real fast.
All right, hit me.
It's time for 5 questions with Taylor the Gator Phillips.
Question number 1. Which person do you think will take the new general manager position? Patriots Director of Pro Scouting Bob Quinn, or Seahawks Co-Director of Player Personnel Trek Kirchner?
I'm gonna take the coward's way out and say neither, because I kind of let it out the bag earlier. I do think it's gonna be Sheldon White, because like I said, if Rod Wood was basically got the job, which is basically as close to a Ford family in hire as I've ever seen one, they're gonna keep it in house and go the route of hiring Sheldon White, which of course will in turn lead to them keeping Jim Caldwell. As much as I hate to see it, but that's just how I feel it's gonna go down.
Next question.
Question number 2. Who do you think the Lions will take as their number 6 as their 16th overall pick if they don't get Robert Nkemdiche, which they won't?
More than likely, if Nkemdiche is not there, I'd say, depending on, I hate to use this title phrase, but I really think they'll go the best. What Martin Mayhew used to describe is they will take the best player available. That's my firm belief.
Question number 3. This may sound way too early.
Next question.
But looking at the 2016 schedule, even if you haven't looked at it yet, I haven't looked at it either. But how do you think they'll finish? Just wing it.
I say 9-7, and they'll either finish a close third or a distant second in the division. I'd say I'll wing it and say early prediction they'll finish 9-7.
Follow-up question: do you think they'll either make the playoffs or miss the playoffs?
Miss. Hate to say that too, but with Jim Caldwell calling the shots, I just don't trust this team, and quite frankly, I don't like this team. So I just don't see it ending well. So I would say they'll miss the playoffs for 2016.
Next question.
Question number 4: with Connor Cook in the NFL, do you think the Spartans will continue to be an elite team with Tyler O'Connor at quarterback?
I still say yes, because they have a nucleus of internal eternal nucleus at their core, led, of course, by Mark D'Antonio. He's going to find a way to make sure year in, year out they have at least an aggressive defense that does its job, productive running game, and at least adequate level of competency at the quarterback spot. So they're at a point now where if they don't win 10 games a year, it will be considered a very, very disappointing year. So the Spartans, they'll be fine no matter what quarterback they got. As long as D'Antonio's still there as the head coach, they'll be fine. Yeah,
they just need to get ready to start feeling their winning touch in the college football playoff picture. That's my point. And finally,
next question.
Question number 5. How do you think defenseman Kyle Quincy's return to the Red Wings lineup will affect their play for the rest of the season?
This may sound like another cheating answer, but I'd say not very little or in the middle whatsoever, because it's not like they were setting the world on fire or dramatically improved while he was away. You know how I feel about him with his skill and his ability on this team. So, with it as it is, I think it would just be slightly, a little bit below what it was when he was away, obviously. But, again, not so much where, it becomes a moot point.
All right, well, those are the 5 questions. Ed, I thank you so much for helping me out with episode 185 of the Detroit Sports Truth of the 2016 New Year edition. We'll talk Thursday at probably 1 o'clock or 1:30.
Yeah, depending on how the Wings game goes and ends. But it was a pleasure ringing in the New Year with you, and let's hope this marks a year of great things for us and this show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Get some rest. I will talk to you on Facebook tomorrow.
All right. Take care, Taylor. Night-night, everybody.
Yep. And for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.